All
Jay, did you get
right.
some sleep last night?
We
Oh, sorry.
should. No, it's good. That's the best way to do it. All right. We should be live, everybody. How's it going? I'm Colton. I'm the head of growth at Liquity. Today, I'm joined by Joey from Fei Protocol and Jay from Rari Capital. We're going to talk about all kinds of cool stuff. Wherever the conversation goes, it goes. There's no set framework. I just want everybody to know that this is actually live. So if you happen to be in the chat hanging out and you want to ask questions, feel free to do that. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat and I'll try to work those into the conversation. That being said, we owe some people some intros. So Joey, we'll start with you. Who are you? What do you do at Fei? And then Jay, who are you and what do you do at Rari?
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm really excited to be here. I'm Jay's older brother. I'm the founder of Fei and protocol architect.
Hi everybody, I'm Jay. I'm co-founder of Rari Capital and resident janitor, meaning I clean up everybody else's messes.
Nice. Is that how you always describe yourself, the resident janitor? And
No, I switch it every time.
okay. Yeah, it's a new intro every time. Sick. So you guys are brothers. This is like a real thing. I want everybody to know that this is true. They're actually related. Anyways, Fei and Rari, two very different protocols. So I want to set the stage a bit and talk about what they are and kind of how they work. So we'll start with you this time, Jay. Like, what is Rari Capital? My phone keeps falling. What is Rari Capital? And then, like, what makes it different from other sort of lending markets? And for context, like other lending markets might be Compound or Aave or even Liquity, for example.
Yeah, so Rari actually began as a yield aggregator, and that was really our bread and butter in the beginning. Then we realized, okay, yield aggregators on this direction of fees will inevitably trend toward RO. Plus, it's just not fun writing strategies. Like that's just like you're not rating anything tremendous for the world, and that's something that our team was really passionate about is making a change. So we said, okay, what can we do? What's something exciting? And this idea of being able to lend in both anything has always stuck with me, right? And I think Dan Elitzer published this piece on superfluid collateral, which was top line. At the same time, we wanted to make our yield pool tokens, meaning our yield aggregator tokens, borrowable, and all of these compounded them up with what was Fuse, which is basically an isolated lending and borrowing marketplace, is how we like to describe it. So think of Aave and Compound as these single markets, these single lending and borrowing markets, and they're behemoths of markets, right? They're SIV, right? Whereas Fuse enables anybody to start their own Compound or Aave, right? With whatever assets you want, with whatever interest curves you want, with really whatever parameters you want. And we're trying to create as much flexibility for these pool creators as possible to work towards this vision of a future where your collateral in every DeFi system is usable as collateral inside of Fuse. Your like all of your crypto assets are used as collateral inside of Fuse. And one day, really everything should be able to be used as collateral inside of Fuse. And that's the end goal. Obviously, when comparing to systems like Compound and Aave, focus on very, very special types of collateral. Same with Liquity, right? Our idea is, okay, how can we create the most expansive lineup of collateral types, and how can we support pool creators who want to do a bunch of creative stuff with the protocol?
Yeah, it almost like really allows you to be more flexible relative to a lot of the peers. You can kind of expand alongside DeFi rather than being like this like lagging indicator of where the innovation is going, which I think is really cool. So Fei Protocol, what is it? What is Fei the stablecoin, and then how is it different from other stablecoins like LUSD, for example?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first, I just want to pill everyone on Fuse and I'll double down on everything Jay said. It's the most flexible and DeFi native lending platform. And so the way I see it, like Fei is spiritually the Fuse of stablecoins. Like the goal is to be super DeFi native, super DAO focused, and it's almost not even a stablecoin. It's really like a decentralized bank, and that issues a stablecoin against protocol controlled reserves, right? So here's how it's different from like LUSD and Rari and DAI. Like I see those three as sort of primitive stablecoins. And like honestly, I know like Robert and Colton would agree that like Liquity is not like a stablecoin protocol; it's like a credit facility, but it does generate a stablecoin. And I see LUSD really as like an actual primitive. Like there's the code's immutable, there's no governance. Like that is what we want for like these core primitives. And then Fei is like a layer of abstraction on top of that, where we have what's called protocol controlled value. And that's the big idea behind Fei, is that you have these reserves that the protocol can deploy and are controlled by governance. and you use those reserves to just make Fei more useful. We make great partnerships. We have great collaborations with other DAOs like Balancer, Index, Coop. Fuse is a huge partner of ours. That's why I'm such a big fan, because it's like a perfect fit. And so that's really what Fei is. It's just a stable coin that's backed by those things. And so that allows a ton of flexibility. I think is a super powerful concept. And similar protocols are like Olympus and Frax, where Olympus is like a non-USD stablecoin that uses a PCV model, and Frax is a USD stablecoin that there's some nuances. I'm happy to get into them, but that's not really the focus of this call. But TLDR is like, these are very powerful DAOs, and I think that like DeFi is really sleeping on the power that they have as capital allocators and as like networking agents in DeFi. So I'm pretty excited to see like what 2022 holds. There's a lot of cool DAO narratives that we want to be right in the middle of.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when it comes to stable coins, I mean, we essentially have to have all of these different type of stable coins because, and we'll touch on this later in the call. We don't have to go into it now, but I think it's becoming increasingly obvious that in order for like decentralized stable coins to win as a category against like USDC or USDT, for example, we have to have different like types of innovation, different types of stable coins, and then they all have to collaborate and work together in order to sort of win that battle, so to say. So we'll touch on that in a little bit, but really quickly, I wanted to work this question in while we're on the topic. This is for you, Jay, from the chat. Somebody said, do you see Compound and Rari Fuse running complementary to each other in the far future? Or are they like competitors? How do you see that playing out over the next, I don't know, let's say 2-3 years?
Yeah, that's a spicy question. I think comp will always have a place, right? It's like I've learned so much from Leshner himself, right? I've respect the Compound protocol deeply, right? Fuse started fork of the Compound protocol. That being said, right, you can create Compound market, like you can replicate the Compound market exact top of Fuse, right? Compound itself is a feature of Fuse. So Compound's long-term longevity, to me, really depends on whether they can lean into this institution narrative, because I don't believe that they can stay up to date with this DeFi narrative, because they aren't they aren't deep in the weeds of DeFi as we are, right? So they need to lean into a new narrative if they want to continue playing in this game. And for me, right, it's like we're going to lean into DeFi, and then maybe down the line at the institutions and everything that Compound's exploring now. But for now, I find DeFi the most interesting and the most exciting.
Yeah, I agree. Like it'll be interesting to see the difference in outcomes for a lot of these protocols who lean into, like you were saying, lean into DeFi or lean more into traditional finance. I'll be waiting patiently to see like who kind of. I don't know if there's like a one winner or a handful of winners, or if like it all plays out such that like we go on separate paths temporarily and then we all converge later on. And then somebody asked, is Joey and Jay being brothers a meme or is it real? It's real. So we can just move on from that part. All right, let's talk about some other cool stuff. I want to talk about Fei buying or acquiring 100 million LUSD. Joey, if you don't mind touching on like why why is that beneficial for Fei? Why did you guys choose LUSD? And then maybe even you can touch on the mechanism a little bit, because I know some people in our community specifically, they were a little confused on like how the sort of balancer auctions work, or I think it was a liquidity bootstrapping pool is kind of what they're called. So if you can kind of touch on all of those things really briefly.
Yeah, I'd love to. This was one of my absolute favorite proposals, because I've been a huge fan of Liquity since like you wrote your original white paper. So like basically Fei is, like I said, it's almost not a stable coin because it's like a PCV algorithmic bank, right? And so we can't exist on our own. Our mechanism is not designed to survive without other stable coins that are operating at a lower level, right? So we need DAI and we need LUSD. And maybe we don't need either specific protocol, but we need a stable place to hedge protocol volatility, because you can't back a bunch of US dollar denominated debt with volatile assets and expect a good outcome in 100% of market conditions. So we've been very lucky with the ETH price action, but we're overexposed to ETH. And so the way that we like first got stable allocation was we got approximately 100 million DAI, and that was great. But we desperately do not want to build a dependency on DAI in isolation, because they kind of got really screwed by USDC. Like they're literally pegged to USDC. And so we love DAI, we love MakerDAO, We don't want that for Fei. We want to be more like, we want to diversify tail risks across DeFi. And we see LUSD as, the most philosophically pure stablecoin. It's like over collateralized by ETH. It has no governance. Like nobody's going to fuck with us. So we want to use LUSD. You're well established. And that's how we made the decision to allocate, some of our stable allocation to LUSD. And that's going to continue. We really like, we don't want to we want to diversify risk, but like LUSD is going to be a big part of our like stable strategy, I think, as a protocol. And how we got the LUSD was really fascinating. Up until now, we've been using bonding curves to acquire assets, which is basically just like buying at a discount. It's kind of like instantaneous Olympus bonds or something, where you're just like, I'll give you $1 for 98 cents if you give me 98 cents of the thing I need right now, kind of thing. And that's cool, but it's not very efficient. You're losing value and you're like waiting for the market to solve your problems versus a balanced or bootstrapping pool. Normally it's used to sell a token to a community, but you can actually use it just as like a generic auction where you say, I have a bunch of X and I want a bunch of Y. And so what we did was we just minted 100 million Fei and threw it in this pool and then said, okay, we're going to sell this for LUSD. And the market like completed that transaction. And it only cost us like, 1%, I think, in slippage just throughout the whole process, which like there wasn't even that much LUSD in the entire curve pool. So it was like a really, really great hands off. Like we didn't even like, it was super easy. So, it was just like really smooth, no brainer, one of my favorite proposals. And we're working on a bunch of other cool stuff that's related that I'm sure we're going to talk about. But level one, just literally getting the LUSD in the protocol was a slam dunk.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by all these like different potential mechanisms for acquiring not only just LUSD in bulk, but like other assets in bulk. But for LUSD specifically, like you're saying, I mean, there's not even 100 million LUSD in the curve pool. So if you're a DAO, let's say, and you need to acquire LUSD for your treasury and you want to do a massive swap, I don't know, 50 to 100 million, you just can't do it on the curve pool. And so seeing you guys, and then not only you guys, but also Olympus DAO experiment with these like unique mechanisms for acquiring LUSD, I think is like setting the stage for more cool stuff to come. And I hope that like as DAOs really start to consider like, treasury diversification, or even if they need LUSD for a particular use case in their project, they kind of look to you guys for inspiration on how to actually acquire that LUSD, because we get that question a lot. Like, okay, if I want LUSD, how do I get it in bulk? We get that not only from whales, but also just from DAOs. So it's cool to see you guys experiment with that. I want to touch on a bit too, like I don't know how publicly we've teased a lot of this stuff about a potential stability pool plugin for Rari, and then the potential of this like crazy stablecoin pool idea you had. So Joey, if you don't mind like setting the stage for that, and then Jay, I want to toss it to you to kind of talk about what is unique about Rari such that it can allow this type of experimentation to happen. So Joey, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Jay.
Yeah, I mean, as I'll say over and over again, I'm a huge Liquity fan. I'm a huge Fuse fan for obvious reasons, and so like, I'm like disappointed that people aren't doing cooler shit on Fuse. And so I was like, we're really busy at Fei, but I had this idea, and I was like, we're just gonna build it because it's awesome, and I want to like inspire other people to do. There's so many things that are equally cool that you can build on Fuse, but this stability pool one was kind of a no-brainer to me. So let me kind of set the stage for the idea and how it works, and then Jay can talk about like the deeper reason why Fuse is so perfect for stuff like this. So basically, the stability pool is like a vacuum for LUSD supply. Like if you have LUSD, you're super incentivized to put it in the stability pool. And that's really bad for LUSD in the ecosystem because like it's great for liquidations. So it's really good for like borrowers and keepers, but it's not good for LUSD adoption. Because like, why would I hold LUSD or put it in Aave if there's an opportunity cost of like, 5 or 10%, I don't know what it is, but it's like, it's high enough that where you're like, well, I'm just going to put it in the stability pool. And so that makes it hard for arbitrage. It makes it hard for lending markets to form. And because LUSD isn't like Fei, where you can't just like mint it into these lending markets, it's kind of really hurts adoption. So you rely on third parties like Fei Protocol to do that. And we are very happy to do that. And like that's where I think there's a really beautiful relationship between the three of us is we acquired a bunch of LUSD. We're huge partners with Rari. Like we're probably going to merge if the community accepts that. And so the proposal itself is to take all the LUSD, put it in a fuse pool that allows you to get capital efficiency against your tokens, so you can long or short the LUSD, but you don't sacrifice the opportunity cost because all the unborrowed LUSD goes back into the stability pool. So what it does is it allows users to leverage up on stability pool yields. It allows users to arbitrage the peg in an extremely capital efficient way. I can go into more detail about how that looks if you want. And it also allows people to have their tokens in the stability pool and borrow Fei and go use their Fei to do some other thing somewhere else in DeFi. So this is going to be great for Fei and Fuse and Liquity all at the same time. So even though it's kind of a side quest from everything else we're doing, it was like so awesome that I had to start building it. I like wrote the code over a weekend or two, and like I'm kind of sad because I wanted to get it across the line, but then like the merge conversations started happening. So it's a little bit on the back burner, but the code's basically done. I just have to finish up the tests and then we can send it to audit. But yeah, that's like the idea. Very happy to go into details about, I was very high level, but it's like, it's like magically cool about like how good it is for all three of us. And, I'll leave it to Jay to kind of talk more about why Fuse is so good at stuff like this.
Yeah. And the important thing to note here is like, Compound and Aave would like never allow something like this. It's hard enough just to get an asset listed on the platform, right? And more or less like make this like backend plugin where that LUSD is sitting in the stability pool and whatnot. And also when it comes to the parameters that have to be set on that pool to allow the arbitrage to happen, I don't think Compound and Aave would ever play that game. So Jay, if you don't mind like going into why Fuse can actually allow for something like this, whereas these other lending markets just would never let it pass.
Yeah, I think the answer is really in like isolation, right? That these are all isolated lend borrow markets at the end of the day, would enable us to provide so much more flexibility, right? So in pursuit of maximum capital efficiency, the question came up, what can we do with these idle assets? And that's how the generalized plugin model came to be. Let's create a generalized framework for redirecting idle capital one place to another, meaning from a Fuse pool into anywhere else. Right. So the initial concept was, imagine if you could redirect from one Fuse pool to another Fuse pool, right? Then you create like a almost like a living form of capital moving between various different Fuse pools, probably at a risk, like in a risk adjusted way where it moves down the funnel of risk. That's really cool. But then we went one step further and said, imagine if it didn't just move between Fuse pools and you could send it anywhere. Right? Imagine if you could send it to like bank single-sided staking, and then suddenly the yields in the pool reach arbitrage with whatever the single-sided staking is, and that'll have effects on all of the lending markets inside of Fuse. And it becomes really, really cool. And actually, the other day I was having a very interesting conversation. I forgot who said it, but you could basically the plugin framework is really just a liquidity director. Right. And to a certain degree, you can rebuild like Token Mac with the Fuse framework itself using plugins, right? Because you're redirecting liquidity between various different places and it's a whole lot more generalized. And you could do a lot of really, really interesting things. So when Joey came to me with the idea for this liquidity stable pool and what could be done with it, I was like, that's so sick, right? Yeah. It's like, I was really excited about the plugins because like I had all of these ideas for what they could be in mind. It was pretty like far down, like, okay, Fuse pools and what looks like moving Fuse pools between each other. But there's a whole world of possibilities outside of it that we haven't even explored. And the design space for plugins themselves are super, right? Like what happens when like you can have a plugin or like a variety of plugins that are defined and like it's governed by the pool users itself. Right. So when the pool users dictate where their capital is being transferred to, and you have it to a variety of just different like liquidity providing like AMMs, like there's so much flexibility with the platform. And that's what I find most exciting about it is I don't know what's going to be built on top of it. And that's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, go ahead, Joey. You don't have to raise your hand.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt him. Jay gets in the flow, dude. He has such good flow. Like, yeah. So I just wanted to say that I'm calling it right now. I don't know if anyone else has called this. I'm sure you've thought about it, Jay, but someone is going to make a sick fuse pool with its own like token. Like it's just going to be a fuse pool with the governance token. And the governance token's only going to manage the fuse pool parameters and the reserves. And that's it. And like, I'm actually surprised
100%.
that I'm surprised no one's done this yet. Like Tetranode should do this with the up only pool. Like, Tetra, if you're watching, you should do this with the up only pool because it would be awesome. And you'd make a new token and you could meme it into existence. Like everyone should do this. Like, why not? Fuse is the best. It's literally like compound as a service. Like you could compound's a $3 billion protocol and it could just be one Fuse market. So just think about like how big Fuse is and how much infrastructure that like the Rari team is going to build to make Fuse like competitive in like DeFi 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, 100.0. Like it is just like we're on such the fringe, and I hope everyone just gets jacked listening to this conversation because like it's like we're gonna do awesome stuff here. I'm really excited.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
I just came up with this, right? It's like, imagine if you like did that, right? Like you create this new token, right? And let's say we call it like, let's say but better, okay? Like that's the token name, comp but better. And we airdrop it, everybody providing liquidity onto Compound, and that token governs a new Fuse pool, which is an exact replica of the Compound market.
So it's just vampire attack Compound into a Fuse pool.
Honestly, dude, like I'm not gonna say we should do it, but we should do it. Like I love Lesh, but like I feel like this would be a great thing to try. Like, you know, mobilize the community and create new value. Everyone loves airdrops. Like let's just do an airdrop. Like
it could almost like be a second arm of like Compound, for example. Like we were talking about earlier, like they have this hesitancy to lean into sort of DeFi or DeFi 2.0, and they're instead leaning the other way. Like if they really wanted to, like I know deep down like Robert Leshner and co like have this itch to be a lot more degen, and so like what if they just created a second arm where they're like, look, we're gonna do this token thing, we're gonna do something crazy, we're gonna make a Fuse pool, and we're just gonna go all out on this thing. Like it could almost be Compound themselves that does it. But before we go too far down the rabbit hole,
wait. We're gonna go further down it. We're gonna go.
I'm complimenting. I'm adding more to the conversation really quickly.
Robert is 0x Tuba, and Tuba is gonna do this, and they're gonna make a Fuse pool and fork Compound.
Oh my god! Somebody in the chat said comp holder is terrified right now. Yeah, probably. I just want to add like. So we recently launched the sort of Liquity Fuse pool, and I want to full disclosure. I had not been really fully Fuse pilled yet at the time, and so like we didn't go into it with a crazy strategy, and I'm really glad we hopped on the governance call with everybody in the Rari Capital DAO not too long ago, because Joey was in there, and Joey was like, he just messaged me soon after, and he was like, hey, why don't you guys just do this. He like spun off all these ideas. So I'm really glad that that overlap happened, because without like Joey's insight on like, obviously he thinks about this stuff a lot and I had not. So without that insight, you know, one, we might not even be on this call, but also like having all these cool conversations, and like I would have never realized the full potential of Fuse. So like I'm glad that conversation happened. I'm glad that that governance call happened, because it really sets up the not only that Fuse pool for success, but it also sets up LUSD for success within the Rari Capital ecosystem, which I think is really cool. Okay, so we went down the rabbit hole a bit, which was awesome. There was all kinds of alpha and ideas leaked, but I want to explore the stablecoin conversation we were having a little bit earlier. So whenever people think about stablecoins, particularly decentralized stablecoins, like whether LUSD or Fei or Frax or ALUSD or MEM or whatever else, it really doesn't matter. They kind of see us as competitors, but I don't think I agree with that. And Joey, I don't think you do either, and I don't think Sam at Frax does. I don't think Scoopy agrees. So like everybody sees us as competitors, but we don't see each other as competitors. And we kind of touched on, I don't know if we touched on it earlier in the call or before the call actually started, but there's this idea that in order to win in DeFi, or for decentralized stablecoins to win as a whole, we have to work as a collective. Like all decentralized stablecoins have scaling, upper bounds on scaling, right? They just can't scale infinitely with the size of the dollar like USDC and USDT can. So Joey, I want to ask you first, how do you see the decentralized landscape sort of playing out, and then what's Fei's role in that? And then Jay, I want to pass it to you after that and talk about like where is Rari Capital's role in this sort of future of decentralized stablecoins. So actually, Joey, two questions for you. One, where do you see the decentralized stablecoin landscape playing out, and how do you think about the competitor? Like, are we competitors or are we collaborators? And then where's Fei's role in all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna add nuance because I think people deserve like, no bullshit answers to questions like this. So we're both. We're competitors and collaborators, right? And like especially with LUSD and Fei, it's a super symbiotic relationship because to me, LUSD is like core infrastructure. Like you're part of what we need. Like we need you, right? And so when you say, oh, I want other treasuries to hold LUSD, I want other treasuries to hold Fei more than I want them to hold LUSD. And I will tell them that they should hold LUSD over other alternatives, but
We're
I'm gonna
second
sell
place
Fei.
on your list, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna sell Fei harder. So that's the way I see it. Is like, the market is growing like 10x a year or something crazy. So like, there's no like there's no reason to get caught up in any bullshit. Like we are so all gonna make it, and I want to collaborate maximally with all the other stable coins. But I'm obviously still like very biased, and I want Fei to like be a key player, and that's how I see it. It's like, so yeah, like I want to do these liquidity deposits. I want to do the like D3 pool. We're in a curve pool with Frax and Alchemix. I love that. Like we're totally all gonna make it, and it's really like let's all make it, and then like the market will
And then we
figure
fight
out
each
like,
other,
and then we fight each
yeah,
other
and then we
later. Yeah,
fight each
maybe.
other.
I don't know. I mean, it's
Then we
never
fight
gonna
to the
be
death. Yeah.
it's never gonna be antagonistic. It's like it's sport, right? Like literally, like we're trying to create the future. And if Liquidity just like wins and Fei disappears, I would be like, well, maybe I didn't try hard enough. Maybe the community just like something happened, or there was, there's so many failure cases, and I would be stoked. I'd be like, yes, someone did it, because like it doesn't matter who it is. We need a decentralized stablecoin that takes over. And I love MakerDAO, but they're not like the last stablecoin that we're gonna have. And so that's how I see it. Is like someone's gonna do it. I'm gonna try really hard to make Fei the most important one, but like I want us all to do our best and push each other. It's like the most healthy form of competition possible.
Yeah, I just think we have to like when like if I like right now if I had to think about who the actual competitor was, it would be like USDC and USDT, like the or maybe even
Yeah,
PAX. Like those are the actual
absolutely.
competitors, and
Yeah.
so the only way we can really even beat them is through collaboration. Like they just have every advantage possible, and so
No,
like
they don't. We have
well
so many. They have so many advantages that they're sleeping on. Like,
yeah
yeah,
yeah
they might win. They might win retail. They might partner with Visa, but like maybe Visa's going to be irrelevant. Like so. I think if we got to live on the fringe and like fight to our strengths, right? This is like
totally and
it's war, dude.
it's all like context based advantages, right? So like I'm not like they don't specifically have like every advantage over us. It's all context based, and like when it comes to like holding a peg, for example, they have a lot of advantages for obvious reasons, or like when it comes to scaling, they have a lot of advantages for obvious reasons. So there's these like certain areas that are a little bit harder for us as decentralized stablecoins that they just have like win conditions for that, and so we have to like find all these other win conditions, and the best way to do that is through collaboration. And so Jay, I want you, like, since I guess you don't have a
So
stable coin in the race at the moment.
let me just like follow up on what you just
Yeah,
said.
go
Like
ahead.
we need to play to our strengths and lift each other up. That's how we win.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
so when I say oh we're competitors, like it's literally not relevant how like whether we're competitors philosophically or not, because we have to like lift each other up if we want to compete with like the real competition, like you said. So I'm totally in agreement.
Yeah, cool. And so Jay, since you don't have a stable coin in the race at the moment, like where do you, pre-merger, where do you see, where do you see like Rari Capital's role in all this? Where do you see Fuse's role in all this? Like, how does Rari Capital DAO, which will eventually, hopefully, if things all go well, merge with Fei Protocol. But like at the moment, where do you see Rari's role in all of this, and how have you, like, I guess how has your opinion changed over Rari's life cycle about this stuff? Because I'm sure like DAI and USDC and USDT have been some of the biggest stable coins in Fuse pools for a while, before Joey came in and just started throwing all kinds of Fei in there. But like before that, how did you think the stablecoin landscape was going to play out, and what Rari's role would be in that? And then where do you see it now that things are starting to change a lot?
Yeah, honestly, like in the beginning, I was really short all these new stable coins, right? Like I had this perspective that DAI was going to be winner takes all, and USDC would be its centralized counterpart. And that's really the mindset that I had for like a lot of the 2020 calendar. And then I started to see a DAI fall back and a lot of utility surrounding stable coins, right? And now how I think about stable coins isn't like they're competing for stable coins. It's that the stable coin is just a like a component in a grander ecosystem, right? So maybe for Chip, one way of looking at it is the product is this PCV and the Fei is just one way of nurturing PCV, just as for Liquity, LUSD is just one way of nurturing this credit facility, right? So I think that there is going to be a very diverse set of stable coins, each with own utility. Obviously, if they're just competing for the sake of being a stable coin, they're going to die. NGMI, those guys. But where does we play in that landscape is I think it's about empowering these stable coins, right? In terms of a lot of these stable coins don't have an easy way to get clear market fit, right? And they aren't going to get listed on Compound and Aave because some of them are new, some of them are more fringe, and some of them are playing with a very, very scary mix, quite honestly, and they're not going to get listed anywhere else, right? But because of the power of Fuse in terms of isolating these lending and markets, we can instantly start a market for anybody. And these stablecoin providers themselves can go and start markets, right? So Tribe DAO, the first DAO owned lending and borrowing market inside of Fuse, meaning that the Tribe token holders manage the Fuse pool itself, which is super duper cool. And since then, we've seen all of the other stable coins come and follow suit in terms of applying capital between various different Fuse pools and even having a token holder manage Fuse pool. So how I think about it on the macro sense is Rari is here to help push up all of the stable coins, provide them with utility, and further help them and get adoption across the board.
Yeah, I think that's a good, and in all fairness too, like you talked about how you're kind of bearish new stable coins not too long ago. I think a lot of people were, mostly due to battle scars. Like we had empty set dollar, basis cash, and then 15 derivatives of all of those, and so things
Dude,
weren't
and
looking
Fei
up.
V1, dude.
Dude,
And Fei
totally. And
V1.
and we can actually talk about that a little bit because like Fei V1 was this really interesting really interesting situation because you guys were almost like I don't know a better way to describe this, but like a victim of your own success, right? Like the launch was massive. Like everybody in crypto knew about the Fei launch, and that kind of sucked. It's awesome on the one hand because it was a lot of hype, but it sucks on the other hand because you had to just hit the ground at a full sprint. There was no like walking phase for Fei, and so the mechanisms weren't exactly how you guys, or they didn't play out exactly how you thought they might, or they didn't, or the community was kind of confused about some of them. So like touch on that learning process a little bit while we're here. We might as well. Like, what was it like going from that crazy launch and Fabi one things not working out exactly as I'm sure you'd hope they did to now like the position phase in? Like, what was that sort of transition? Like, what was the launch like for you? And then, you know, how has Faye evolved since then because of everything you learned at that time?
Yeah, it was one of the most public and painful learning experiences possible, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm very humbled at the experience, and I'm grateful that large segments of the crypto community have given me a chance to really show like what I can do and what Faye can do and what a resilient community can do. And so like, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, there's a ton to say, but I'm not gonna like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna
We don't
over
have to harp
focus
on
on
it all
this.
right
Like,
now. Yeah.
yeah, so like basically the mechanism was extremely experimental and very soft touch. So like, um, you know, we threw $1 billion into like a delicate kind of thing, and that was not smart. And then the launch itself was also very experimental. So we used an experimental launch mechanism that was flawed with an experimental mechanism that was probably flawed, but we don't really know because we didn't give it. I genuinely think we didn't give Baby One its full chance, but it was like so experimental that it wasn't worth doubling down on. And I think that was something that like there was a lot of hard conversations that we had about what V2 was going to look like and if we were going to double down on V1. And I think we made the right decision to kind of let all that stuff go. And V2 is totally different. And it's spiritually identical to Fei V1, but from a mechanism perspective, it's completely different. Like it's a PCV backed stablecoin, but that's the only similarity. Everything else is totally different. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot about mechanisms. We learned a ton about community. We learned a ton about like how to like lead and like handle hard situations. I do want to say, I don't know if I've even said this to Jay or in public anywhere, but as we were going through our own hell, Rari had experienced something, you know, very similar with their hack in the aggregator. And I think that the way that Jay and the Rari community really handled that, I was beyond impressed. And honestly, like even like a little bit jealous, because like I don't think that I personally handled Fei V1 very well. I wish I could go back and handle it better. And I was super impressed with the way that Jay stood up in front of the community, rallied everybody in an extremely short period of time, said, "This is what I know, this is what I don't know, and we're gonna make it right however we can." And part of the merge, which I hope we get to talk about here, is like a little bit cathartic. Like I'm honored that Fei can play a part in like healing that history from the Rari community, because that was something that really inspired me. And I know that there's been some pushback from tribe holders about why we need to, you know, repay that debt. And it's mostly about this idea that we're becoming one. And so if we become one, like their debts are our debts, their past is our past, like we're together. And so I think that we're going to have a really strong shared identity going forward. And like, that's something from like my personal journey that's like cool, because Jay's here and you're here and you asked about it. So like, yeah, I think we're in a great spot. Like, I've learned a lot. The protocols, like, it's literally it's like I'm not gonna like overshill, but like Fei is literally in like optimal financial shape right now. Like if you look at any DeFi protocol, it's shitting cash. It has the largest non-native treasury in DeFi, and everyone's sleeping on it super hard. And so like it's an honor to like be in that position. I'm grateful because like we almost died. Like if ETH had gone down instead of up, we would be dead. So like
Yeah, that's what I
it's
was
pretty
going to
yeah,
add. There was a
yeah.
situation there where you could have definitely like thrown your hands up and been like, well, shit, like it didn't work. Like now it's dying. So we just got to give everybody their money back and go find something else to do. And I mean, Rari could have been in a similar position too. So I think this sets us up for a good transition going in the merge. So Jay, I want you to touch on the hack a little bit too. Like, what was that like? Because thinking back to when we launched Liquity, like we were launching with no admin keys. It was no nothing. So it's like, if this thing breaks, that's terrifying, right? Because there's no way we can even save these people. So we made sure to be very diligent when it came to security and everything. And not saying you guys weren't, like security in this space is unbelievably hard and the consequences are very, very high and unforgiving. So what was that like having to deal with the hack and then moving on from it? And then we'll also go into the merge, because I know we're getting pressed for time. We've had an awesome conversation. So really quickly kind of touch on that hack and then we'll go into the merge stuff.
Yeah, honestly, it was really shitty. That's the TLD.
Sure.
But honestly, like it was a really good learning experience in the grand scheme of things, right? I think first of all, it made our community stronger in ways that you would never expect, right? Right after the hack happened, we got on the Discord and 250 people came to talk about what we can do, right? And I think that's when shit, like this isn't a project that I'm like the CEO of. This isn't a company. This is really a community run project, which has always been in our blood, right? We distribute 7.5% of our token, right? And but it's just like that was one of the like the moments where I'm like, this is like this sucks, but this is powerful. And I think that that carried on in terms of how we did it. And quite honestly, like I didn't do much for the hack, right? In terms of actually responding, community really took charge, right? In terms of creating a document with potential solutions, in terms of putting together communications, is just pushing us in one direction. But it was the community really deciding and dictating what direction that was. And that was really, really cool. And like it sucks, and I'm super excited that this is all going to be behind us shortly, but it was really a great learning experience. I think that the other piece is it showed the flaws in DeFi composability, right? I mean, DeFi 2.0 is largely built on composability, but that doesn't come without risks, right? And the risk here was Alpha Homara, and it really sucked, right? But it showed us and enabled us to get our heads together and say, look, we're not going to use our aggregator to deploy to other protocols anymore. We're only going to aggregate our own products because we know our products best of anybody else. And I think that was a great learning experience, because you look at like many other yield aggregators today, and to reward in terms of spreading capital out across 15 different protocols, any of which can get hacked at any given time. Does it even make sense to put capital into one of those? I have my own like reservations there, but I don't think so, because if any one of them goes, it hurts your principal, right? And for 4% to even 8% yield, it just doesn't make sense to me. But when you consolidate that risk into one protocol, then suddenly that makes sense because you're isolating your risk into one thing which you know very well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I want to be clear to everybody listening too. I didn't like ask these questions to highlight failure. I asked them to highlight the comeback stories, which I think are amazing for both protocols. Like, and as you were saying, like community is the foundation for all of these projects. And it was amazing to see both communities in both situations help contribute to the comeback, because they could have just bailed. Like it would have been easy
Yep.
enough to like start screaming at you, give our money back, and we're just going to leave. But that's not how things played out. I mean, not to say there aren't detractors, but like for the most part, that's just not how it played out. And I think that leads perfectly into this conversation about the future of both of your protocols with the proposed merger. So, Jay, we can start with you on this. Like, what is the merger for those people who may not know? And then how did all of this come about? And what is the current state of the plan? Because I don't think we've really ever seen something like this before. The Yearn mergers kind of back in the day were kind of like this, but not really. So let's talk about how this happened, what is the merger, how this happened, and then what is the proposal, or where is the proposal at as it stands?
Yeah, definitely. All great questions. So, how it started was Joey came out to LA one weekend. We had a great time together, right? Just talking about DeFi,
Just
having a good
brothers
time.
having a great time, yeah.
Exactly, right? Like dinner and then talking about DeFi, you can't beat that. And then I called Joey one morning and I'm like, hey, I have this crazy idea. And it was during a time when I was pretty stressed about something that was happening internally at Rari. And I was like, hey, like I have this idea. Like, what are your thoughts about it? Like, dude, like I just bought a bunch of RGT. And then I'm like, let's go. Like you're in like, and he's like, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And then the conversation became like something that was like, oh wow, like this could be really cool. And we started thinking about like, okay, what does this look like for the next not like week of DeFi, but what does this look like for the next 2 years of DeFi? What does this mean for the next decade of DeFi? And it kind of just clicked like, oh my God, like we're gonna verticalize DeFi within this realm that we're building within the Tribe DAO. And that became a very, very appealing con to both of us because we have the stable coin, we have the lending facility. When you combine these two distinct elements, it becomes something really, really powerful. So what it looked like from there is then we independently posted on each other's forums, hear what the community has to say, and then from there, various different parties like GFX, X Labs, Reverie, Llama came out and they were like, here's what we're thinking in terms of pricing. Here's what we're thinking in terms of optional implementation. It was so cool to see the community itself really come together and operationalize this idea that me and Joey just put onto the forum. And then from there, now where we're at currently is we've gone through multiple different iterations of what this looks like. GFX has taken the lead on really putting together a formal proposal, and I believe that it's hitting the snapshot early, which is really exciting because that means that we're going to instantly start to see what the community truly thinks about this. Because to date, it's been exclusively just on the forum in Twitter Spaces, but now we're going to be able to quantify what the community actually thinks and be able to use that to help inform the next steps. And the next step really is on-chain governance once we feel out the temperature check on Snapshot, which is super exciting, super rad. As you said, nothing else has been done in DeFi DAOs before, and I'm really excited to be really like marking our stick here and doing like just doing some cool stuff that's never been done before.
Yeah, it's going to be cool to see. And it's also been really cool to see like everybody's just different opinions about how this should be done or what it should look like. And I mean, if anybody wants to dive into all it, I don't have an interest in going into everybody's different opinions and stuff right now, but I do, Joey, I want you to really pitch the, like, what is in it for both protocols here? Like the merger's cool. There's a lot of, ideological things that are in sync between both of you, but like from a practical perspective, like what is some of the cool stuff that this partnership enables that people may not be considering? Like at face value, they're just more probably worried about like the token merge and like what does governance look like and stuff like that. But I want you to show some products here, leak some alpha. What's some cool stuff that can be done because of this merger that maybe couldn't have otherwise?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. I have three higher level things I wanna drive home before I talk about the dirty details, the
Sure.
alpha. So one is, like Jay said, this was extraordinarily community led. Like, and and like, again, like I want to have like radical transparency with everyone, right? Like I think that it was clear that Jay and I were like so excited about it, and we've been really like trying to pill people on this vision, but that's all we've done. Like we haven't been pulling any crazy strings in the background. We haven't been like, there's no like conspiracy theory. Like most of the conversations have happened in public. Like it's been really incredible to see the community just like show up and share their thoughts, and the proposal's gotten demonstrably better and stronger because the community just like came together. And that's like so magical. Like I've been around DeFi for years now, and I've never seen authentic constructive governance around something so controversial as I have in this proposal. And I know it's painful sometimes and not everyone agrees, but like everyone's opinions were heard, everything was discussed, and everyone wants that. And that's the best part about this whole thing. So like, yeah, me and Jay have been going around doing the pilling of like why this is awesome. And that's because we believe in it, and we're gonna vote for it, and we're gonna fight for it. But like this is the community too. And like we're gonna be together as communities. So like that's something I want to just like call out again and again. And I think Jay is really good at like stressing this, is that this is just a sign of what's to come. We want Fei to be a community of independent contributors that like are entrepreneurial and want to see this thing be like verticalizing DeFi. And so like there's one like kind of, so there's one kind of mental model that I think of for like how we can look in the past and learn for the future. I think that Yearn style mergers are just not like, they don't mean anything. Like the Yearn ecosystem was like not even really, it became like not even an ecosystem. It was just like, oh, we're gonna like be part of the same brand, but there was no incentive alignment on the token level. Like I don't even know if they did treasury swaps or not, and I don't know how relevant that was. Like it was like so surface level, and because there wasn't that like deep skin in the game, then it didn't really amount to much, and it wasn't very inspiring. And then, so like what happens when you consolidate? Well, you verticalize DeFi and you build deep integrations in your stack. And the only other entity in DeFi that's tried that is Sushi Swap. And Sushi has the exact opposite problem. It's a single core team. And they got way overworked and a central point of failure. And I'm optimistic. I hope that Sushi can like really kick ass, but they're clearly in a hard spot right now because they tried to do too much with a small team. And so as painful as it is to take two fully liquid tokens and try to smash them together, what the Fei Rari merge is I really think it's like the right way to do it. You get two completely kick-ass independent teams to come together and continue to be completely independent kick-ass teams focused on the same token, on the same tribe economy. That is like absolutely magical. And I have a suspicion that this is like the right way to do consolidation in DeFi, and we're going to lead the charge. That is really exciting because the network effects are going to compound rapidly. And so like that segues into my last point, which is like, we're going to get the best of each other. And that's what's so cool, that like Jay and the Rari community are like so freaking decentralized. It's like, it's wonderful. And the Fei community, this is something I'm extremely ideologically bought into, but we've had so much crap to deal with that it's basically been like Joey's the de facto CEO for the last couple of months. And only until not the last couple of months, but like from April until, let's call it, August or September, it was literally just like, okay, Joey, what do we do next? Like that's, and that was necessary. And like, and now we're in such a great spot that we've like really empowered the community, and this Rari merge is just supercharging all of that. Like we have a bunch of community contributors who realize the situation we're in and are just like, hell yeah, I want to be a full-time contributor. I'm like so bought into this vision. And I'm honored that like we got to a place where that was possible, because it didn't look like that was going to be possible for the longest time. So like I'm no longer going to be like CEO Joey. I'm going to be like one of the core contributors of this tribe. And like, just like Jay, just like Transmissions 11, just like Caleb, like everyone on all the core teams are independent contributors, and we're just like incentive aligned with this tribe token. And I think that's so beautiful. And there's so many other ways that we're getting the best of each other that it's like, it's honestly too good to be true, which is why like when Jay called me that morning, I swear to God, he texted me it was like 8:40 in the morning when he texted me, and I didn't see it because I was buying RGT like as much as I could. Like I was on my ledger buying RGT, and then I saw his message and I was like, oh, like what's up? And he was like, dude, let's merge protocols. And I was like, are you kidding? People are gonna think I front ran this because I just bought like a huge stack of RGT. Like it was actually crazy. And when he said it, it felt right. But obviously, you know, it was like a crazy idea. And so I had to like tell the team and like align stakeholders. But this was totally driven by the core teams. Like there was no VCs behind this, even though all of our shared VCs are absolutely stoked. Like Rari doesn't have VCs, but they have similar stakeholders, and they're all just like, oh my God, you're my two favorite teams. This is going to be epic. And so we just really carried that energy. And so that's all the like fun high level stuff. I know I've kind of talked forever and we're coming on time. In terms of like products that we can build together, I mean, one, we're going to kick ass on L2 together. When you deploy Fuse and then immediately deploy a bunch of Fei into it, like you win, right? Like you have a fully bootstrapped lending market without any token incentives. That's a huge dub. So we're going to do that. We also are going to build like permissionless ways to bootstrap lending markets, like even more like efficiently for protocol treasuries than like having to ask us for permission and run it through our multi-sig and whatever. Like that's cool, and we're going to keep doing that. But we're also going to really unbottle, like allow more you know, efficiencies and automation and on-chain infrastructure to like supercharge the relationship that's already really good. And I mentioned this in our original community call. We're still working on the name. We've talked about calling it maybe Bootstrap or Boost, or I don't know, but we're gonna come up with a cool name.
Give
but
us your name ideas, people. We need name ideas.
Yeah, throw some names in the chat. But the mechanism is going to be sick. And like I'm trying not to be too specific about it because like it's literal like hardcore alpha, and I'm really proud of the idea. And I love seeing my crazy ideas come to life. And this is one that I'm really excited about because it's like very related to the merge. So thanks for letting me rant on all those things. That was like, it needed to be said. And
no worries. I mean, I think that's when like the best stuff comes out, whenever you have an opportunity just to like let it all go. And like, I remember, I don't remember what time it was here, but I was just on Twitter and I see this crazy proposal. I was like, what in the hell are these two doing? Like, because it was just such like a big out of nowhere thing. I mean, anybody following Rari Capital and following Fei for a long time probably noticed the obvious collaboration that was happening between you two. And so I felt like from a strategic standpoint, yeah, it made a ton of sense. Just nobody's really done this before. So I was like, they're insane for like just putting this out there and like going for this and seeing what happens. But it's been cool to see not only each of your communities rally around it, but kind of like all of DeFi is rallying around behind this, because they just want to see it like go through, I guess, or see what happens. Because like you were saying, when the Yearn stuff happened, I don't even remember how my sense of time is all messed up now, but it couldn't have been that long ago when Yearn was kind of doing these like M&A. They weren't like M&A. I don't know. It was some weird stuff. I don't know what it was, but everybody thought that was cool. But in reality, it wasn't that cool. But this is like actually cool because there's a lot at stake for everybody. There's a lot of incentive alignment for everybody. And you're taking two core teams and not really combining them, just putting them next to each other, aligning incentives between both, and then seeing what happens. And so like that to me is extremely exciting. And I mean, I'm glad that the temperature check is already around the corner. And then from there, we see like what the full proposal looks like. And it's the other cool part about it has been like seeing all these different external entities come in and say like, what if you guys tried the token merge this way, or what if you tried it this way, or we got to make sure that everybody's getting the best deal here. And that part's been cool because you don't have to do it yourselves, but also because that means there's outside investment of people who are really interested in solving this really new and unique problem. And so hopefully you guys lay the groundwork for other future protocols to do the same, because I think there's a lot of projects in DeFi who would benefit from this type of a merger. I don't really want to call it an acquisition. It's really just a merger. It would be
absolutely a merger.
Yeah.
I sometimes Freudian slip and say acquisition just because we're bigger, but like it's not an acquisition.
Yeah.
It's a total merger.
And it doesn't come off as an acquisition either. It really does come off as a merger, which is like the cool part about it. Jay, me and Joey just kind of ranted a bit, but do you have any like last thoughts you want to add to that? Because I know you're just as excited about it as Joey is. So from there we could start to close it out. But I want to give you a chance.
One thing that I haven't fully thought through that I was thinking about when Joey was talking is like it's almost Fei has like it has these massive like PCV, right? And what's cool with this is it's almost like, okay, how can we use this PCV and the tribe asset itself? Usually they'll invest that into assets, right? Investments, right? But what's happening here is they're investing it into people. And I think that's a trend that we're going to continue to see from the tribe DAO after this goes through, is that we're going to invest in the most exponential returns, which are just smart people in general. It's going to be super awesome because this is just the start, and we're going to get those exponential returns to a very large degree because we're going to continue bringing in the brightest, the smartest people into the tribe DAO. So what I would end this with is, if you're smart and you want to do some cool stuff in DeFi, shoot me or Joey a DM. And we're looking to, like, if you're interested in fixed interest, if you're interested in AMMs, if you're interested in having an interesting discussion, let's figure out how we can do that on behalf of the tribe DAO.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like, please, everybody, this is like career advice. If you want to get into the space, everybody and their mom is hiring. So please, like, don't hesitate to reach out to projects. If it's Liquity, if it's Fei, if it's Rari, if it's anybody, reach out, because 9 times out of 10, if you have a skill set that is applicable to the space, there's room for you. Like there's just almost certainly room for you, especially developers. So even like community builders and growers and like all of that stuff is extremely important. So if you want to get involved in the space, reach out to people who are building in the space, because they need you just as much as you need them. Like I promise you. So
we
made
need
it
them
to
way
it.
more, dude.
Yeah.
We made them way more. But let me riff off of Jay, dude. Like, first of all, he said the same thing that I was gonna say, which happens all the time. So if you resonate with Jay and I, and you have a similar, like,
Well, you're
you know,
brothers, so it's like that.
we have a similar way of seeing the world, we want to talk to you. And yeah, like I think that the PCV for Fei, like the merge is just a perfect way to catalyze this like next wave of DeFi, which is that we're going to invest the PCV in people and bootstrapping. Like it's so split brain. You're like, do you put PCV on Aave? Do you put it in Compound? It's like, no, we're going to put it in our ecosystem. And if you want to have $100 million to start right away, and like a safe community that wants to support you, and you're smart, like come be part of the tribe. Like you will give you tribe. Like we want you to have tribe. Like incentive alignment is so powerful. And like that's what Jay, I think, was alluding to. Like we want to overspend on these owners that want to come in and own, and like we'll lift you up and you'll be a leader in your own right. And you'll like, you know, we want, and you can have whatever you want. You can just be a developer. You could come on podcasts, like whatever. But if you want to create massive value and like just like be a part of this thing, and that like that's the way that I would end this, is just echoing everything that Jay said. Like it's going to be really magical, and like we're super pumped to work with Liquity on all of that. Like whatever happens with the tribe DAO, Liquity is going to have a huge place in that, in our hearts, in our mechanisms. And thanks a ton for having us on here.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate both of you taking the time. I know things have been crazy and stuff with the governance stuff, and we hit an hour like it was nothing. I'm sure we could probably go for like two more hours, but to spare everybody the the time, yeah. Anyways, I appreciate you guys coming on. This was an awesome conversation. Hopefully, people get a lot of value out of it. If you're in the crypto community, pay attention to the DAO merger. If you have Tribe or if you have RGT, like make sure to vote on this type of stuff. It's extremely important. Or if you just have feedback, make sure to give it. I know these two guys are all ears for the best way to get this done. So again, appreciate you guys coming on. Hopefully we can do it again in the future, hopefully post merge too. But yeah, everybody tuning in, go follow everybody on Twitter, go keep up with what's going on in everybody's ecosystem. Like Joey said, if you want something to do in this space, reach out to them, reach out to us, and let's figure out where we can get you involved. Cool. Bye everybody.